Welcome back, everyone. We're diving deep today, folks, really deep, into the life of Dutch artist HansDeWaal.
Ah, yes.
We've got this audio file, long interview, maybe an oral history, and it covers his whole life, from childhood all the way to now. It's one thing to, admire an artist's work just looking at it.
Right.
But with something like this, we get a chance to go beyond the canvas or the sculpture.
To understand the person behind the art.
Yeah, the experiences, the events, all those things that shape creative vision.
Absolutely. It's fascinating, to see the raw materials.
Right. So let's start at the beginning with Dwaal's early life.
Okay.
He was born in Eindhoven.
Eindhoven.
And get this, on a street named after his family.
Wow. What a coincidence.
Talk about a sign, right?
It's really striking, that detail. And, even his early years, sort of this mix of the ordinary.
Yeah.
But also the unsettling. He was nearly abducted as a kid. Imagine that. And then the bullying. Quite a bit of it, actually.
Yeah.
Because of his red hair.
Oh, that's awful.
Makes you wonder, though, about those early experiences. The vulnerability.
Yeah.
How they might have shaped his worldview,
Yeah, how could it not? It sounds like he did find some solace at a campsite.
Okay.
In Belgium. But even there, some pretty odd stuff going on. He mentions this several times. People driving Mercedes as some kind of ritual they do. It's not clear what it was all about, but it left an impression on him, that's for sure.
Interesting. Those early encounters, the unusual, things that defy easy explanation.
Yeah.
I think those can be significant. Artists, they're drawn to the mysterious, to what we can't explain. It might be those little moments, insignificant, seemingly, that plant seeds that later on, blossom into art.
That's a good point. It seems like the campsite itself, almost a recurring symbol.
Really?
As a teenager, he saw a biker actually crash through the gate and die there.
Oh, wow.
And the bullying continued, sadly, this time leading him to become a bully himself for a while.
It's a dark pattern, isn't it?
Yeah.
How those victims, sometimes they become the perpetrator.
It's a vicious cycle.
It makes you wonder, did Dwaalhaas break free?
Right.
Or did that cycle just keep influencing him? His relationships, his choices. Something to keep in mind as we go deeper.
For sure. Around this time, too, he gets his first job at a supermarket and gets involved with this rockabilly gang, run-ins with the police, first sexual experience.
A lot for a teenager to process.
It is. Makes sense, though. That pull toward the rebellious, the dangerous, maybe a form of escape.
Could be. A way to assert control.
Yeah, when the world feels chaotic.
Absolutely.
And tragically, he loses several friends during this period. Some to suicide, others to violence. Not just abstract concepts. This is real personal loss at such a young age.
That's a lot to deal with. A recurring theme I'm picking up on.
Yeah.
Dwaalhaas. He's constantly exposed to the darker side of things. Pain, loss, the fragility of life.
It's true. But you know what? Even with those experiences, potentially damaging, obviously, they can be incredibly shaping, too.
I think it's often in those dark moments that we find strength, resilience, our own capacity for it.
You think that applies to Dwaalhaas?
I think it might. Interestingly, he does distance himself from the gang. Starts spending more time with his brother, the older one.
Okay.
Exploring things like martial arts, scuba diving, pushing boundaries physically and mentally.
I see. Looking for challenges, even amidst the darkness.
And he became quite popular at nightclubs.
Oh.
Which, suggests a need for connection, for belonging.
Makes sense.
Sense of community, purpose. Perhaps those were missing before.
Glimmers of light, yeah. So we move into his 20s.
Okay.
We see him interacting with people from all sorts of political backgrounds, rejecting advances from a relative, actually. A married uncle.
Interesting. He's forming his own identity then, separate from family, social circles.
Absolutely. And then there's Anne's. She becomes a significant figure in his life. Their relationship, intense, but also marked by her past trauma, abuse within her family, and later at a boarding school.
A reminder, isn't it, about how long-lasting abuse can be. Dwaalhaas's willingness to engage with someone carrying that speaks to his empathy and perhaps his own attraction to the darkness.
That pull toward darkness, yeah. We see it again with his holiday flings, encounters with older women, bikers. It's like he's searching.
Trying to fill a void, maybe? Through intense but fleeting connections.
Possibly. And then we meet Max, fellow biker.
Okay.
Becomes a close friend. Things get really strange at Max's place, though. Brutally murdered cats, threatening messages.
That's disturbing.
Dwaalhaas even suspects Manx might be responsible, given his propensity for violence. Chilling thought.
And yet Dwaalhaas still spends time with him. He goes to biker meetings. Why?
Maybe drawn to the intensity, the raw energy of that world. Testing his limits, seeing how close he can get to the edge.
It's a risky game.
Yeah.
And in the next part of Dwaalhaas' life, the stakes get even higher.
Because he meets Angela.
A woman who will have a profound impact on his life. And their relationship, it wasn't straightforward, at least not at the beginning. Dwaalhaas was actually initially drawn to Angela's girlfriend.
Wow, another layer of complexity. I guess Dwaalhaas' path to love was never, simple and predictable. But he does fall in love with Angela, right?
Yeah.
Deeply in love.
Yes. Their connection becomes incredibly powerful, very intense, turbulent. You get a real sense of, the push and pull between them, the passion, but also the pain. And then, sadly, another layer of darkness comes in. Angela struggles with anorexia.
Such a cruel illness.
It is. And it ultimately takes her life at the young age of 32.
That's just heartbreaking to find that connection, that kind of love, and then to have it ripped away. How did Dwaalhaas cope with that loss?
Not well. At least not initially. He spirals. Depression. Turns to alcohol, drugs, to numb the pain, obviously.
Yeah.
Engages in self-destructive behaviors, even prostitution for a time. He loses everything, becomes homeless, and he drifts further and further into that darkness.
It's like Angela's death broke something inside him, whatever stability he'd managed to build. It's almost a reminder, that even when we find love, those moments can be so fleeting.
It is a reminder of the human condition, really, our capacity for love, but also for immense suffering. But even in those depths of despair, there's often a spark of resilience.
And for Dwaalhaas, that spark comes in the form of?
Died. A Turkish businesswoman. She offers him shelter, support, during that incredibly difficult time.
It's amazing how those acts of kindness often appear when we need them most, from unexpected places.
Absolutely. And with Died, it goes beyond just providing shelter. She sees something in him, a creative spark. Maybe it was lying dormant beneath all that, pain. She encourages him to explore his artistic talents. And that leads to a discovery. Dwaalhaas, he has a natural gift for painting.
It's amazing how such a profound talent emerges from such a dark time. It's almost like the act of creation itself became a lifeline.
I think it can be. A way to channel that pain, that grief, into something beautiful, something meaningful.
And his journey into art takes an unexpected turn. He's offered a place at this prestigious art school.
Right.
But he decides against it.
He felt the need to develop his own style, his own voice, outside the constraints of formal training.
I can see that. There's that streak of rebellion in him. So how does his career take off?
Well, Died plays a big role. With her support, he has his first exhibition. It's a success, critical acclaim, establishes him as a rising star.
Wow. Quite a turnaround.
They even travel to Turkey together. He experiences, a period of luxury, artistic exploration, a world away from the darkness.
Sounds like a fairy tale ending.
Not quite. Even with this success, Dwaalhaas isn't at peace. There's this unhappiness lingering beneath the surface, something still missing. He parts ways with Died eventually, and then he receives some unsettling news about a boy he and Angela had tried to help. This boy, they'd shown him kindness. He ends up murdering his neighbor.
Yeah, it's a tough one. It's a reminder. We can have the best intentions, but we can't control the outcome. How did that news affect Dwaalhaas?
Another layer of tragedy underscores that interplay of light and darkness, which seems to define his journey.
So even as his artistic star rises, his personal life still turbulent, he puts together a big exhibition, his work, throughout Eindhoven, appears on national television, collaborates with poets, writers, but the relationships, there's still a struggle. Even gets involved with a woman whose place he had broken into previously.
It's almost a paradox, the success. But he can't seem to escape those patterns of behavior. That caused him so much pain.
Do you think his art is a way to escape that? Or is it more like a confrontation with it?
That's the question, isn't it? We'll keep grappling with it as we move into the next chapter, a period of profound loss and a reckoning with his own mortality.
This just keeps getting deeper. So much loss and turmoil in Dwaalhaas' life. It feels like he's constantly facing these huge waves of, of darkness. What happens next?
Well, another wave hits, but this time it's grief. His mother passes away, emphysema. And in the audio, you can hear the regret. He wishes he'd been there at the end.
That's so hard to carry that guilt on top of the grief.
It does seem to change him, though. He becomes very involved in helping his father selling antiques at a market in Belgium.
Yeah.
Almost obsessively so. He even says, that he's afraid if his father stops working, he'll lose his will to live.
There's something I don't know, touching about that sense of duty, trying to keep his father going.
Right, but you also wonder, is it a way to distract himself from his own grief?
It's possible. He seems to seek solace in, like, external things rather than looking inward.
Which might explain the trip to Prague with a friend who was supposed to be, a getaway.
Yeah.
But he ends up getting mugged. Seeks out cheap alcohol. Gravitates toward those areas known for drugs, prostitution.
It's like he can't escape those self-destructive patterns, even when he's trying to get away.
Exactly. And you'd think with the art, the success, there would be more stability. But it doesn't seem to be enough.
There's also Claudine. He cares about her, but she struggles with drug use.
Another example, right. How relationships, they can offer support, but also fuel those unhealthy behaviors.
For sure. Then there's that incident, the house fire.
Oh, right.
A malfunctioning microwave while he was heavily intoxicated. It's scary how close he comes to,
to self-destruction.
And understandably, he starts asking those big questions. Why does this keep happening? Why all the tragedy?
I wonder if those questions lead to any answers or just more despair.
Hard to say. But he does see a therapist during this time.
Really?
And the therapist tells him, given everything, he's coping remarkably well. He's diagnosed with schizotypal personality disorder.
Wow.
But even with that, the therapist highlights his resilience.
There's that hope again, that strength to keep going.
And around this time, positive changes are happening. He moves into a bigger house, has a dedicated workspace for his art.
Yeah.
His career keeps growing, and he makes a choice to focus solely on his art.
It's like he finally sees the power of it, that creative outlet, how it can help him channel those experiences.
Into something positive.
Exactly. And he takes steps to support that choice. Ditches the webcam project.
Yeah.
The explicit content on his website.
A separation, then, between the art and those more exploitative elements.
A sign of growth.
Yeah.
And to help him navigate the art world, he hires a manager.
More ambition. Reaching for a wider audience.
Absolutely. A real turning point.
So what about now? Does the audio file give us any clues about his life today?
The details are, unfortunately, a bit scarce. But it seems like he's continued on that path, prioritizing his art, building a more stable life.
What a story.
It really is.
It makes you think about the power of resilience, how we find meaning, even after so much suffering.
Right.
But it also makes you question, the role of personal experience in art, that relationship between darkness and light. It's complex. Well, there you have it, folks. HansDeWaal, an artist who turned his pain into something powerful, battling his demons, reaching for the light. What do you think? Can we separate the life from the art? Or are they forever intertwined? Something to think about. As we wrap up this deep dive,